You have to be mentally prepared, that's the first thing. Before you step out of your front door and think about doing something like this, you've got to be mentally prepared. You're going nowhere if you're going to complain too much. You're going nowhere if you're going to think that there's a chance of you not succeeding.
Over a year ago, 29-year-old Riaan Manser set out to do something he believes no man has done before. Some would say no man has been crazy enough to even think about doing it. To cycle around the African continent.
I'm like everybody who sits in their job every single day saying, hey, I don't really like this, but I've got to pay the bills. I've got to do those activities to live life. And I mean, that cannot be. I looked at Africa and I said, I'm going to go around this on a bicycle. It was that simple.
When he left Cape Town and his girlfriend in September 2003, Riaan hoped to complete the journey in just 1 year.
I've only got about 35,495 to go. First of all, I got myself a good bicycle. I got myself good equipment. I got people who were willing to support me. Proudly, South Africa is my diplomatic sponsor. And then just lastly, I think just logistics, getting through each border post with the right documents.
Starting up the west coast, Riaan's Africa 365 expedition will go through all the coastal countries, 33 out of Africa's 52. But ahead lay the gauntlet of Africa. Devastated by decades of civil war from Angola to Liberia and Sierra Leone, Riaan was about to cycle through an area most people wouldn't consider entering in an armoured car. Undeterred by what awaited him, Riaan reached his first major milestone after 1,600 kilometres, Windhoek, Namibia.
I think the experience of the 1,600 kilometres was a good start.
The most regular conversation Riaan has on the way is with his video camera. And with hundreds of kilometres between some towns, Riaan has to be entirely self-sufficient. Everything he may need at any time is on his bike. Things he might need immediately, like maps and passport, are stored in front. His tent and sleeping bag, as well as clothes and spare parts, are loaded on the back. And just in case any curious fingers come digging, he's stashed his money in several secret compartments.
Namibia has been good. I've been very, very happy.
And I think my bike's happy.
I think it's changed a little bit since I started. And my attitude too. That road down there, that's where I go. It looks like it the whole way. It doesn't change. The view doesn't change at all. It stays exactly the same.
But of course, on this journey, everything changes. Crossing into Angola, language is the most immediate adjustment.
I'm practicing a bit of Portuguese and it is improving minute by minute. Last night I was up till late, yes, just trying to get a little bit of lingo going.
Bom dia! Como está?
The cycling was also about to get much tougher. Many of the roads in Angola are still littered with landmines. Riaan had been assured his route was probably safe, but not definitely. Landmines weren't going to be the last obstacle en route.
This is just to give you an idea of the blowout that happened. This was when I was coming into Leone, about 200 kilometers out. You can just see it was sliced.
To achieve his goal of circumnavigating Africa in 1 year, Riaan has to cycle an average of 100 kilometers a day. That's the equivalent of cycling the Argus every day. On Angola's potholed roads, Riaan had to push himself hard to stay on schedule.
Time-wise, doing very well. I'm probably on schedule for Christmas in Liberia.
But as soon as Riaan crossed the mighty Congo River into the DRC, sticking to his schedule was near impossible. Thick jungle paths and sandy roads pulled him down to only 25 kilometers a day in some places. The equatorial jungles proved menacing.
No, hey, listen, wild animals. I'm going into the northern part of Congo, so entering Gabon. And people have said to me, hey, are you worried about the animals? Just take a look, take a look now, and tell me if you would not be worried yourself.
Into Gabon, Riaan reached the equator shortly before Christmas, 7,500 kilometers from Cape Town. The new year did not start well. As some other South Africans have discovered, Equatorial Guinea is not the place you want to be thrown in prison.
I was held in a prison cell in Bata because the policemen were drunk, and I started a debate, if I can call it that, which turned out into an argument. And then they just put me into a van, took me to the nearest police cells, and they kept me there for 3 hours. Fortunately, I had a letter from the SA Embassy in Libreville, and they reacted to that quite quickly as soon as the right person read that.
Riaan was released and cycled the next 90 kilometers towards Cameroon, reconsidering his approach to African authority.
I've got a serious attitude problem that needs some attention. I'm going to give it attention today, because I'm not going to make it through if I don't lighten up somehow.
Equatorial Guinea was a rude awakening to the realities of West Africa. But with his newfound patience for bureaucracy, Riaan practically slipped through Cameroon and Nigeria without anyone noticing. Crossing the tiny countries of Benin and Togo took only a few days, and from Ghana it was into the Ivory Coast and its capital, Abidjan. But next up was the notorious Liberia, the one country where Riaan knew his life could certainly be threatened.
That's me in Liberia now. So just arrived is not as bad as I thought it was. Let's just hope it stays the same.
But it wasn't going to. Riaan soon sensed a definite tension resonating through the jungle.
I'm about 10 k's away from this town, which I believe is also a destroyed one, but they try to make it up. I don't know. It's no good, eh? No good. Just gives me a bad feeling. Just don't understand. Just don't understand. Understand why people are like they are.
Soon after filming this video, Riaan was captured by rebels.
They chased me down, threw me off my bicycle. Sure, they were all high on drugs and they had knives, some of them had guns, and they put me into a dungeon. Gee, risk was just that whole time. They just threatened my life, and the one guy was dressed in a long uniform, was probably 12 years old, and I was calling him sir, and really humbly I was asking this guy just to be kind to me. I really believed that I wouldn't wake up the next day, eh? I mean, I didn't think it could maybe happen, I believed it, eh?
Patiently, Riaan negotiated his freedom, and the teenage rebels let him go after 5 hours. By the time he got to Sierra Leone, the unrelenting strain of West Africa was clearly taking its toll.
I just wonder, what do people do to achieve things, eh? And this is probably what I have to do. But it's not fun. I want to go home, man. I really want to go home. 14,000 kilometers I've done. Isn't that enough? I guess not.
But a few days later, Riaan received an emotional and motivating boost when he was invited to visit an amputee camp.
It clicked something in my mind to make me realize that what I'm doing is not tough. Come on. I've got food in my stomach every single day. I'm healthy, I'm strong. I'm able to actually physically do this. I've got to be grateful for something.
With renewed vigor, Riaan rounded the bulge and passed through Africa's most western point at Dakar before entering Mauritania in May.